Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite dystopian and post-apocalyptic romances. Alright guys, so if you're unfamiliar with dystopian romance or post-apocalyptic romance, dystopian romance is essentially a love story that is set in a very broken or heavily controlled society. Normally there's a very oppressive government and a lot of themes of rebellion, and then post-apocalyptic is like one step further than that. Society has already fallen. Now, this video was essentially inspired by Patreon reading sprints. I was reading To Cage a Wild Bird, which I am going to talk about in this video, and I was saying how I don't read a lot of dystopian romance, only to then name a bunch of dystopian romances that I really enjoyed. So that was a lie. I apparently do read a lot of dystopian and post-apocalyptic, and I've kind of been loving it lately. So in this video, I'm going to share a few of my absolute favorites, along with a spoiler-free plot synopsis, and I hope you guys enjoy. Now, if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit that notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram, Goodreads, and Patreon, all linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's talk about these dystopian romances. Alright, so starting off with To Cage a Wild Bird, I finished this book very recently and I really enjoyed it. Now, the premise is pretty dark. We're following this girl named Raven, and Raven lives in a world that essentially goes by a 3 strikes and you're out policy. So once you get 3 strikes by doing anything from stealing to something really heinous, you are sent to Enlock, and Enlock is a prison. And in this prison that is filled to capacity, because once again, this whole civilization runs on a 3 strike and you're out system, the wealthy are able to hunt the inmates for sport, and they believe this kind of keeps society going. Now, our main character, Raven, is a bounty hunter, so her job is to ship people off to Enlock. So obviously, a lot of people at Enlock really hate her. Well, Raven is pretty much the sole provider for her brother, and her brother ends up being sentenced to have to go to Enlock. So Raven does something to get herself arrested so she can go in and protect him, and when she gets in there, it is essentially her just trying to keep her brother safe and them both alive, while starting to catch feelings for a guard who is definitely off limits. I love this. I read this book in a single day. I could not put it down, and it had, once again, a lot of very dark themes, but parts of it did read kind of young. Just know, there is a lot of violence. Like, with that premise, you're seeing some of these hunts go down, and there are children involved. I don't think there's, like, an age limit to be sent to Enlock, which is just absolutely horrifying. But I loved Raven as a character. She is so strong, and she will do absolutely anything to protect her brother, and I envied her. She was so badass and really had to make some tough decisions. Now, as far as the romance, it is very insta-love, but honestly, I was okay with it. It was in such a, like, terrible environment. I feel like people might end up falling in love a little bit quicker that way, but overall, such a solid read. So if you like dystopian romance, definitely pick this up. Totally forgot to mention, this has a very odd release schedule. So the audiobook and the ebook are both available. However, the physical book, I don't believe is releasing until March. However, I'm pretty sure it's a fairy loot pick for next month. So I have no idea what's going on with the release schedule, but when the book is available, definitely pick it up. All right, next up we have Silver Elite. This book came out earlier this year and had polarizing, like, different opinions. Either people really loved this book, or they absolutely hated it. Some people were saying it was fantasy romance, others were saying it was dystopian, and it was wild. I actually have a vlog of me reading this book that I'll leave it in the cards in the description, and I kind of touch on a little bit of the controversy. But either way, I read this book, I gave it 4 stars, I really enjoyed it. So in this book, we are following a girl named Ren, and Ren lives in a world where having psychic abilities equals a death sentence, and Ren has psychic abilities, so she has been trying to, like, quietly get by and kind of helping a rebellion on the side, while once again trying not to have anyone detect the fact that she has this magic. Well, a mistake accidentally kind of exposes her, so she is then forced into the enemy's elite training camp, and she decides she's gonna try to take them down from the inside, and it goes from there. I liked this. I thought the pacing was excellent. I never wanted to put this book down. I enjoyed the characters. I will say a lot of this isn't super memorable. I would definitely have to do a reread before I picked it up again, but I enjoyed the romance overall. So I think if you're enjoying books like Fourth Wing and Direbound, this has a very similar feel, just a little bit more dystopian. And next up, we have Last Light by Claire Kent. Now, this was the first book I read by Claire Kent, and I have been hooked ever since. I'm pretty sure this is the start of an entire post-apocalyptic romance series. I've read a lot of her novellas. Very spicy, very awesome. Definitely check her out if you haven't. Now, in this book features such a cute romance in such a, very upsetting setting. So in this, we are following Layne and Travis. Now, 4 years previously, the world essentially ended, and our main character, Layne, stayed in her town, her hometown, even though everyone else in the town left. I'm pretty sure from what I remember, she had an ailing father or aunt or something, so she wanted to stay with them, while the rest of the town went to, safety a few states away. Well, the person Layne stayed with ends up passing away in the very beginning of this book, not a spoiler, and she decides she has to make this trek on her own in order to find her people. Now, while doing so, she realizes this is very dangerous, but she really has no other option. So as she's traveling, she runs into Travis. Now, Travis was a mechanic who was also from this town and ended up staying, and he fixed her car once or twice, but that is really the only relationship these two have. They do not know each other very well at all. And Travis immediately becomes a little bit protective of Layne. So when Layne leaves the shop, he ends up following her, and when she gets into some trouble, he ends up kind of protecting her, and it's their romance of them trying to travel to this safe location. And Claire Kent does not shy away from some of the more uncomfortable sides of what would happen after an apocalypse. Our main character gets her period, she doesn't know exactly what to do in order to stop some issues from happening. They aren't able to bathe regularly, and that is kind of described in this book. So just know it's a very real, post-apocalyptic romance, and I really, really enjoyed it. So once again, if you have not checked out Claire Kent, highly recommend. And next up, we have Shatter Me. Now, this is a young adult dystopian series that came out quite a few years ago, and I'm gonna be honest, I actually thought I was past the point of enjoying this book. I didn't read it when it was super popular, but I picked it up 2 years ago. I binged that series. I loved it. Now, there is a character in this series, name starts with an A, top book boyfriend. I am fully obsessed with him, and I did not think a young adult character would be an obsession, but Lift Up Your Hips, Love lives rent-free in my mind. It is one of my favorite quotes, and I love him. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Shatter Me, we are following Juliet, and Juliet has the power to kill with a single touch. She doesn't even have to touch you. If you touch her skin, you are dead. So in this dystopian world, she is being held in prison by a regime known as the Reestablishment that is trying to take over the government, and a war is beginning to brew, so they want to use Juliet as a weapon. But Juliet does not want this, so she is able to escape, and it's her trying to take down the Reestablishment, and there's so much more to it than that. There is a great found family and so many amazing characters. So please, even if you're a little bit older and you don't think you love young adult, this series is 100% worth reading. Okay, and next up we have Soul Eater by Lily Mayne. This is a post-apocalyptic monster romance that features an MM relationship. Oh my gosh, even if you are not a fan of monster romance, you will absolutely love this book. This also features one of the cutest relationships I have ever read. I will fight for these two. I love them so much. So in this, we are following Dani. Also, before I forget, because I know I'm going to forget by the end, please check out the audio for this. Dani, our main character, has a very heavy, southern accent, and I just think the audiobook narrator did a fantastic job, really brings him to life. Okay, back to the plot. So in this, we are following Dani, and Dani lives in a world where monsters kind of emerged and essentially took over the world. So there are these little military-run groups, but then there's also the wastes, and the wastes are where all of the monsters are free to roam. Well, Dani, although definitely not someone who you would have thought would want to join the military, decides to join the military in order to survive, because he has the best chance at living if he lives on one of these military compounds. So he joins the military, and his first assignment is to be one of the people in charge of attacking Wynn. Wynn is a monster. Wynn shows up every few years and sucks the life, like leaves people as husks of anyone he encounters. So Wynn is very dangerous. Now Dani, with this group of people, go to attack Wynn, and Dani and Wynn kind of lock eyes with each other, and then Dani blacks out, and when he wakes up, he finds out his entire team, they're dead. However, they were able to somehow capture Wynn, and then Dani also begins to realize that Wynn might have a bit of an interest in him, and it's their romance. It's so good. It's so good. It has humor. It has so many just cute and adorable moments. You have these two beings that really don't understand or know very much about each other, but they love each other. And I really, really enjoyed this. So please give this a chance and check it out. And if you are looking for a super, super spicy post-apocalyptic romance read, check out the Brutes of Bristlebrook series. The first book is Ensnared. Now, this is following a girl that is living in a world that is just chaos. So there has been a final war, and now everyone is really out for themselves, and our main character, being a woman, is trying to stay away from men, because men are just very dangerous in this world. It's essentially what would happen if society collapsed and everyone was out for themselves. So if you're a woman, bad things can happen. So she is trying to live a very kind of isolated life in her cave with her books and her gardening, and all of that changes when a bunch of hunters end up stumbling upon her. So she has to run for her life, and she runs right into these 5 like military survivalists that are all into very different kinks. And they tell her, hey, we'll protect you, but you gotta help us out in some ways. And she agrees because she's into it, and it's their romance. Now, I will admit I've only read this first book. I never went on with this series. I might have started the second book, I'm not positive. But the audio for this, if you want to know all of my favorite narrators, every single one besides a super problematic one is in this book. I mean, the problematic one is in the audio, not one of my favorites. But all of the others, oh my gosh, they are some of my favorite narrators. So this is one of my favorite audiobooks just because the narrators are phenomenal. So if you want a very, very, very spicy read, check this out. And next up, we have The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse series by Laura Thalassa. This is a very dark and very spicy post-apocalyptic romance. Now, admittedly, this is not one of my favorite series. I really had some issues with the first book, but I know it is very, very loved. So in the first book, Pestilence, we are following this woman who lives in a world where the Four Horsemen have descended upon the earth and are killing everybody. So she ends up encountering Pestilence, whose main job is to spread disease across humanity, and she tries to kill him. She does not succeed, so he ends up taking her as his captive and really, really tortures her and just kind of traumatizes her for a decent amount of time. And then as they have to travel together because he is keeping her alive for some reason, things kind of start to blur, and he starts to understand a little bit about humanity, and it's their romance. So I ended up giving this, I believe, 2.5 stars, only because the MMC, Pestilence, really, really tortures the FMC, and she forgives him very quickly for everything that he did to her, and I couldn't get past it. So not my favorite, but once again, it has very good reviews, and a lot of people really do enjoy it. So check it out if that plot sounds good to you. And last up, we have Born for Silk. Now, I have not read this book yet. I actually stumbled upon it recently and added it to my TBR, but I realized it was dystopian, so I wanted to include it in this video, and also ask if any of you have read this. Do you think I would like it? Because it has kind of mixed reviews, but I read the plot and I immediately was like, oh my gosh, I need to read this. So apparently, once again, have not read, we are in a world that climate change, along with genetic engineering, has just completely reshaped society. So people are born for a specific purpose, and our main character is born and is given the role as a silk girl, meaning her only role in life is to please the king and give him heirs. And the king is apparently this heartless monster who has been genetically engineered. However, once he meets her, they start to have this connection, and it's their romance. I believe it's the first in a series, but that plot, everything about it I like. So I definitely want to pick this up soon. Once again, if you've read this, let me know, what did you think? Alright guys, that is it for my post-apocalyptic and dystopian romance recs. If you have any other recs, please leave them down in the comments below. And I'd like to say a very, very special thank you to my Paladin protectors, Amanda, Leslie, Christy, Kat, Lada, and Nerdy. Thank you guys, as always, for supporting my channel. And I said this already, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week.